Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for being a part of this call. My name is Logan Levkoff Cortez, and I have the honor of being the moderator for this evening. So thank you for spending a part of your Sunday evening with us. Before we begin, I would like to open this call to Dr. Sol Lizerbram to speak and open the meeting.
Well, thanks, Logan. It's still afternoon in San Diego, so this is not taking up the evening, but I appreciate you offering me to be part of this. And yeah, I want to start off by thanking Logan and Vivian for co-chairing this the event. I don't know how many people are on here, but I see a lot of tiles on my screen. So, and I know a lot of people that I see, some I don't know. But just by way of introduction, like Logan said, I'm the president of JNF USA, and it's amazing to see what you've built with the Caravan for Democracy Student Leadership Mission to Israel and the Faculty Fellowship Program to Israel. Thanks to you, we have 450, I think around 450 Caravan alumni and 200 faculty alumni. And as the JNF national president, one of the goals of the president is to make sure that there's an education process that goes on to all generations about the founding of Israel and the programs that we do. So, and I've known many faculty fellowship participants that have come back and given us their stories, as well as the Caravan for Democracy students that have come back, and it's just an amazing program. So the JNF Campus Gamechangers students and professors you'll hear from tonight will give you some really valuable information. And to the speakers, I say thank you. For all the participants that are participating in various time zones, whether it's nighttime or afternoon, thank you for being part of it. And I'm going to turn it back to Logan and let you really do something important instead of listening to me.
Thank you. Before you hear from me and our speakers, I would like to pass the mic over to Renereinhard.
Thanks, Logan. So, hello, everyone. I'm standing in for Vivian Grossman, who's JNF World Chairman Council member and Faculty Fellowship Committee member. Vivian sends her apologies, but is unable to be with us for our call today. I hope you've all seen the video promos that our presenters taped for this event. I'd like to acknowledge Vivian's initiative in that being done. For those of you that don't know me, my name's Renereinhard. I'm the Executive Director of the Faculty Fellowship Program. I may be dating myself, but it is a Sunday sort of late afternoon. And when I was just a wee youngster, which was not long ago, there I was in my pajamas on the living room floor, waiting for the wonderful world of Disney. Because excitedly and anticipation, I was looking forward to hearing about the world and all the wonderful things that are happening in it. Spookily, that's how I feel about this call as well. But I don't have pajamas on and I don't have the snacks, unfortunately. I am fortunate that over the last 11 years, I've seen the wonderful world of Israel through the eyes of nearly 350 faculty fellows. Just as I'm privileged to share their experiences, so does the program succeed by them sharing their individual and unique positively Israel experiences through their campus, community, family, students, colleagues. And today we have two of them here as presenters, as well as I think we have probably between 20 and 30 alumni listening in. So a big wave to all of the alumni. I wish I could recreate the scene for you, 2018, 2019, believe it or not, raining at the Dead Sea, Masada, but there we were, 100+ students and faculty together. There was a lot of excitement and shouting and hugging, and yes, I was doing all of that, but the stories that were coming from student to faculty, faculty to student were amazing. That's not my job tonight, that's the job of the presenters. I want to say thank you to the 4 presenters. I was also fortunate I've met the 2 students that are presenting tonight, as well as our faculty fellows. A big thank you to our supporters and donors, who, of course, without you, this program could not be possible. Back to you, Logan. Thank you.
Thank you, Renee. So I've already told you who I am, but you should know a few things. So I am so excited that we are all here as part of this call. And the numbers, actually, we have over 100 RSVPs for this evening. As the spokesperson for this brief moment for Caravan for Democracy, it is a huge passion project for my family and me. Our late grandfather, Milton Shapiro, was president of Jewish National Fund from 1993 to 1997, and in honor of Milton and B. Shapiro, our family and so many others have helped to shape Caravan into one of JNF's most selective and notable programs. And tonight, you should know, is really but a quick look at the impact that both Caravan and Faculty Fellowship have had on our participants and the world at large. Before we begin, though, I do regret to inform you that Jerry Schatz, an active member of our JNF community, passed away on April 4th. Jerry was an avid reader and traveler and was passionate about her leadership roles with Jewish National Fund. She was committed to Caravan for Democracy. She was a selection committee member, conducted 20 video interviews every summer, and participated in our selection meeting every fall. She put her heart into everything she did, and she will be missed by our JNF family. I also want to recognize the supporters for Caravan for Democracy and Faculty Fellowship who are with us this evening. David and Ruth Simon, Susan Grossman, Lauren France, Harley Feldberg, Paul and Gail Gross, Gail Asarch and Sandra Davidson, and our friends at McCore, in particular Nancy Siegel and Alyssa Russo, who helped with the recruitment for tonight's online event. Thank you all for your commitment to Jewish National Fund. Just so that you know how the program works tonight, I will ask each of our participants a question. They will have about 5 or 6 minutes to share their views, and then we will open up to some Q&A in which you can submit your questions to the chat box. Again, this is merely a taste of what Caravan and Faculty Fellowship do. And if you are moved by our speakers, we encourage you to reach out to the JNF education team to get further involved. Now, on to our amazing participants. First, Marvelouse Guerrier is a senior at George Washington University, where she is an international affairs major. She is a 2020 Venture for America Fellow and was a Caravan participant this past December. Marvelouse, thank you so much for being here. And can you tell us a little bit about how the experience in Israel shaped you, and recognizing that campus life has changed a bit now, how did you incorporate that experience into your campus life?
Hi, Logan, and everyone else. I'm really happy to be here. Thank you so much for this opportunity to get to share my experience. And so I think in order to really, and for you all to really understand what my experience was like, I'd like to share a little bit about how I got to the point where I wanted to apply for Caravan for Democracy. And so it really starts with summer of 2018. I was at the University of Florida taking some language courses for Swahili because I was going to Tanzania in 2019 to study abroad for an entire year. And I was in this intense kind of conversation with one of my classmates, and we got into the conversation about Israel, and I was like, yeah, I've always wanted to go. Mind you, I had taken various courses at GW regarding Judaism. So one of the first courses I took really was Rabbinic Thought and Literature, and that class was taught by Robert Eisen, who is the director of the religion program at GW. And I'd always go into his office eager to really talk about God, the Torah, and how like the rabbis kind of interpreted these kind of different things within the literature. And then I took another course at GW called Ancient History of Israel. And it was really there that I got an archaeological perspective of the region. And I almost actually went on a dig to Masada, but unfortunately I had another professional opportunity and I couldn't go. So I was really disappointed, but I knew that one day I wanted to go to Israel. So it was awesome that this fellow CFD alum really shared with me that there was this opportunity out there that I could apply for. And so being that I was going to be gone for a year, I set up a calendar reminder for a year later to apply to Caravan for Democracy. And I completely forgot about it while I'm abroad, enjoying my life. But I get back to the US and, I'm hanging out and I get a notification on my phone and it's like, Caravan for Democracy, apply. And I was like, I completely forgot exactly what it was. So I had to Google it and I was like, oh yes, this was the opportunity that, my classmate was sharing with me about how to apply to this program and go to Israel. And I applied and I went through the, very rigorous interview process and I got in. And I was very excited. I was a little nervous in that I worried that on the trip, it wasn't going to be this kind of all-encompassing trip. It was going to be very surface level, and everyone would really kind of tiptoe around the difficult conversations that kind of surround Israel and the politics of all that. But to my surprise, really, like on the trip, we had really intense conversations and open conversations, and we really got to see how diverse Israel is, and that really shocked me because I would say I really, prior to that, had a really good knowledge on the country and its demographics, but to be on the ground and to see it in person, it was very much different than anything I had ever really fathomed. And so after the program, I went back to campus and I gathered a couple of RAs because I'm an RA at my school, and I was so excited to share with them about my experience, and I just went on and on and on, and they asked a lot of questions, and I shared with them my experience and really recommended that they go on this trip and see it for themselves, because I think it's different, especially in the United States, to really understand what's going on, being that everything is kind of so protracted, and everyone kind of has a personal motive in a way. So that's kind of how I've managed to kind of contribute on campus, what my experience was like in Israel this past winter.
Thank you so much. And thank you for being a speaker, not just tonight, but at other JNF events across the country. So thank you. So next up, I would like to introduce our next speaker, who is a part of the Faculty Fellowship. And I would also like to acknowledge Peggy and Monroe Wingate, who are contributors to this program, who I did not know were on the call earlier, so thank you. But I would like to present next Dr. Xiling Shen, who is a Hawkins Family Associate Professor at Duke in the Department of Biological Engineering. And he was part of the 2019 Faculty Fellowship. Welcome, Dr. Shen. So I would love to know, and I'm sure everyone else would too, how has your experience in Israel impacted the work you do on your campus? And what would you like to do with this knowledge in the future?
All right, thank you very much. And I hope everyone can hear me all right. Again, I'm really honored to talk today. We have a lot of faculty fellows, and I was kind of selected to really kind of give a representation of what a lot of us experience. So very quickly, just first a little bit about my background, so kind of, you can understand kind of what I'm going to talk about, how I incorporate the experience back here on Duke campus. So I got all my degrees from Stanford University, and interestingly, all my advisors happen to be all Jewish. I counted my undergrad, master, PhD, postdoc, and I even remember one of my advisors back then had received death threats, anti-Semitic death threats, and you're just thinking, how could that happen at Stanford campus, right? Something like that. And then I was a faculty at Cornell University. I was kind of at that time Cornell partner with Technion, and started the tech campus in New York City, and now on Roosevelt Island, initiative by Mayor Bloomberg. And again, it was quite an interesting experience where you learned all this innovation came from Israel that you took for granted and always thought it came from the States. So before the trip, I thought I pretty much knew everything about Israel. I think I'm a scientist, I'm very fair-minded, what I don't know. But the experience was quite eye-opening. Actually kind of shattered a lot of the stereotype I had about Israel that I didn't even know I had. right? So for example, before my trip, I thought Israel was this superpower in Middle East, like almost like a Goliath. And just kind of only while you be there, you realize how small Israel is and kind of what they have achieved against all the odds. They just become so much more, incredible after you're there. Second is how diverse the population is. And, what's very interesting, we had interaction with the Jews, right? We had an Ethiopian Jewish. And one very surprising thing is they are so proud of being Israel. And they were even so proud of, even serve with the army or fight for Israel. Just kind of this kind of really, this devotion that kind of really struck me. But also, I think I also learned some unsettling facts on the trip, right, back about Duke. For example, I met with the 2 undergrads on a caravan, and they mentioned that they wouldn't feel totally comfortable coming back to Duke and experience the experience, because, radical groups like a BDS that might harass them, or the Middle Eastern program Duke and the UMC jointly had that actually, had an anti-Semitic conference and got sanctioned by the government. And again, being at Duke, you don't see that at all, right? We kind of live in a bubble and thinking everything is going great. And so that kind of really kind of struck me as, after coming back, as I need to do something to spread a message about what I learned. And I think, being a scientist and being realistic, I think I really kind of what I want to start is something small, but to build a bridge between Duke and the Israel, but also more importantly, kind of really kind of serve as a beacon, right? To kind of spread what I see in snippets, what I saw in Israel, to educate people here. So first is we actually going to start a seminar series. Right now it's about bi-monthly, but it's inviting Israeli speakers, but it's apolitical, right? It's not about, we don't want to come in as a bias or anything, but really just people from Israel, scientists, entrepreneurs, coming in and talk about their experience. Just let students and faculty see they're just like us, right? But they probably against a lot more odds than what we have here. And the first speaker, actually was very excited, Dr. Sala, some of you might know. I just got blown away by his presentation from Galilee Medical Center, where they do this very innovative reconstruction surgery for Syrian war victims. And, when I mentioned to surgeons here, they were like, wow, this kind of surgery we never even see here. Or bioengineers saying, making these artificial nose, and I don't know, would it be possible to reconstruct face like that, right? So unfortunately, the first talk was scheduled in May, has been delayed due to COVID-19. But as soon as the travel ban lifted, would love to, Dr. Sela will be the first inaugural speaker. And we also have a couple speakers in mind from my trip, including, the David from the Kibbutzi, right, who will talk about kind of the innovative environmental friendly engineering they do that turned the, desert into a, really agriculture powerhouse. All the people I met at Technion and Ben Gurion, who will really draw a lot of interest. Again, I think they'll come here, they'll talk about science, they'll talk about experience, but I think this really gives the majority here at Duke, right, people who are kind of being intimidated or at least being swayed by a very small but very loud group, right, kind of giving people, the rational people, a sense of what's going on in Israel, and people there share the same principle, share the same value, and trying to make the world a better place just like we do. And also, even personally, the trip actually had a huge impact, which is I actually hooked up with Dr. Eres at the Weizmann Institute, who is not even on my list. I didn't know her. I went there and she reached out. We met, and now we have a very major proposal got selected as a finalist by the Samuel Waxman and the Israeli Cancer Fund, a joint kind of a prestigious award, and also another proposal going to the National Cancer Institute, the very, very high-profile provocative question, which is kind of really tackle questions that no one has addressed. So again, I hope that with my center, with a colleague, some of my colleagues might probably on the line. I think we hope that Duke can be a beacon that building this bridge to really introduce, kind of educate people about Israel, and also maybe disseminate that through the colleges in the South, and really kind of changing the perception a lot of people had about Israel. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. So our next speaker is John Dominguez. John is a senior at Cornell and served on Cornell's Student Assembly. He's also president of the Alumni Council for the Hispanic National Bar Foundation and was also part of the 2019 Caravan for Israel, and also published a piece for the World Jewish Congress on the BDS movement that was going on at Cornell. So John, thank you for being here. And as a member of student government, you did help to defeat a BDS resolution at Cornell. As a student leader on an Ivy League campus, why was it important for you to experience Israel firsthand? And how did your experience inform your interactions with other students?
So my story really is twofold, political and religious. Political in the sense that I really wanted to explore the conflict on the ground, and religious in the sense that I really wanted a religious expedition to the holy sites. And so I'll just start with like the political lens, and I'll preface by saying, I grew up in a part Arab household. It's actually Easter for my family in Syria, for the Greek Orthodox Christians. So I was just on the phone talking to them. My Easter though was last week because I'm an Episcopalian. But part of growing up in a part Arab household is, you have mamul cookies around the house. You dip za'atar in olive oil. But what it also means is you get an education on the conflict. And early on, we had required reading in my house. And I'm not afraid to admit it. Like when I was younger, I was very critical of Israel when I was younger. Over the years, I got a lot more moderate on the issue. But I also began a period of like this stagnation, self-defeating thing where I really felt the prospects of peace were just extremely low. And I just kind of disengaged from the whole thing. And it's not really until my junior year when I'm on the student government where a BDS campaign surfaces where I'm forced to, reawaken to the reality that this is an ongoing issue. And by then, I knew in my heart where I stood, and I knew I couldn't be a bystander anymore. And so I had to be proactive. And so I took initiative, and I worked with students across campus to lead the counter effort against BDS on campus. And there's a whole, I write in my article, just talking about those tumultuous months, where how the experience goes if you wish to look into that. But the turning point was BDS. It was after BDS, after we rejected the resolution, I had this rejuvenated energy to explore the conflict once again. I was much more enthusiastic. I was inspired to, re-engage now that I knew I could no longer be on the sideline. I had to be in the game. And so for me, my next step was I have to go to Israel. I have to go on the ground. I have to see these things for myself. And then the second part really was, and this will, I guess, kind of gets a little personal, but at the beginning of the BDS campaign, my mother had passed away in March. And I had this, and I think a lot of Americans during this time now is thinking like, why did this happen? And I thought, maybe going to Israel, getting closer, going to the Church of the Holy Sepulchre, maybe I'll find some answers there. And so going to Israel, so now I'll pivot now to after going to Israel, after JNF for me, to continue on the religious theme. I've had a spiritual renaissance. I've been reading the Bible a lot more. I'm taking this class at school, the Bible's literature, and I'm like learning so much more about like the authors of the Bible, like how to read different books. I've taken upon myself to read much more on Christian literature. I just this Friday finished C.S. Lewis's Mere Christianity. And so I've had this reawakening of my own faith and connecting with God in a way I don't think I would have if I didn't go to Israel. And then segueing back to the political part, and I think I'll probably get more political just because the people who know me on this call know I'm just a very political person, just very engaged in that kind of arena for me. And so upon after JNF, I joined Cornellians for Israel on campus. And actually, if it wasn't for coronavirus, we had verified information that there was going to be another BDS resolution at Cornell. And so we were starting to prepare how to do the strategy on this. And I was going to, utilize my experience in Israel for this. But I think the one thing though I'm glad about walking away from campus now a little earlier than we expected, but we have elections next fall, and I'm very glad to say that I worked with Israel on Campus Coalition to actively recruit candidates who would reject BDS. And so we have 17 candidates at Cornell University who are going to be running for student government, and they're all very big champions on Israel. And for me, that was very important. For me, this was my way of staying engaged. This is my way of keeping my skin in the game. And for me, it's also about, having been there, it's also about like your role is also to dispel myths and rumors, right? When, I worked with the president of Cornell for Israel. He was a special forces in IDF, and, he would go to Students for Palestine, and, he would, dispel, things like, oh, like the tunnels are for aid. And it's like, no, you have to be, look, I've been to Gaza. I saw these maps, like this is the kind of credibility you get from going to Israel. You have an authoritative voice on the matter. And for me, it's really incredible to be back in the game, to be back and engaged. And I'm very optimistic about the prospects for peace now, much more so than I ever been in my life. So that's kind of my story. Thank you for listening.
Thank you so much, John. Our last speaker is, Dr. h.powell. She is the Director of Graduate Studies for the Art Education Program online and affiliate faculty for the Center of Latin American Studies at the University of Florida. Dr. Powell, thank you so much for being here tonight. As a professor of the arts at the University of Florida, why was it meaningful for you to gain a deeper awareness of Israel's creativity and spirit, and how have you taken that back to your campus and to the work that you are doing?
Wow, Logan, that's a terrific question. First, thank you for having me. I really consider it an honor to be here. And in answering your question, I kind of need to go backwards a little bit and need to give you some context. Before JNF, I really didn't know much about JNF. Clearly, I knew of Israel, but I didn't know about Israel, and I really wanted to know more. I believe in immersion, and I believe it's the best way to understand and learn about a culture, because that's what we do in the arts. We immerse ourselves in different cultures. But I had only read about Israel in the Bible when I was a child, and maybe through some church experiences. So I didn't have a lot of context for this. So when I was selected, the change kind of began a deeper awareness for me. And it started with a book that Eileen and Renee sent me by a guy named Daniel Gordis, A Concise History of the Nation of Israel. I began to read that, and before we were leaving, and I learned a lot of things. I learned where the Hebrew language came from, and I hope I say this right, what an aliyah means, and really the role and tenacity of Israel, not only to survive, but really to exist. And for me, that was a real awakening. As a professor in the arts, being in Israel mattered. It was a really emotional experience for many reasons, not only because, like others, I wanted to learn about Israel and its history from how I'd learned about in the Bible, but also as someone who is non-Jewish, while I was there, I felt an immediate connection to the people and places, their stories. And again, it was a place of just amazing diversity and innovation. For me, creativity it's all about creativity. So I really came back to my campus feeling super confident in the dialogues and having dialogues about Israel with students and colleagues, and really generating a lot of interest in making Israel visible to others, which is something that in truth, it really wasn't to me on the onset. But having had the experience, it totally is now. I began to think about Israel in less of a historical place and more of a contemporary place of innovation. It was full of creativity. And again, as an artist and creative, when we went to places like the Galilee Medical Center, I have a history also in arts and medicine. And Dr. Sela, he really engaged us. And not only did I look around the place as just a place of innovation and creativity, but even the creative aspects of the hospital itself and what people were doing to be engaging, like the murals on the walls and talking about different arts practices that are related to medicine. And I hope I say this place right too, but being at Siderat, where the young kids play, and the creativity also involved there, and Sapir College, watching students study under threat, the Bedouin Project, the Wadi Atir, the Araba Agricultural Center, I thought was one of the most amazing creative innovations, where I met a young man named Kenneth Chipkawani, and he was a vibrant young man, and one of the many folks who, from the trip, I still stay in contact with. So creativity for me was everywhere. I wasn't only changed through individuals, but there were places that also spoke to me. When we went to the Dead Sea, Masada, where I was invited by Shai, our guide, to read the last speech of Josephus Flavius from the War Books 7, I believe. And I read it to my peers in the ruins of the synagogue. And I can tell you, as a performer and as someone who really values creativity, it was felt. It was felt by all of us. We, in a sense, in that moment, kind of had the opportunity to relive a past or a history. I also learned about the Earth Bag Project, which was amazing, about off-grid living. Of course, the Shimon Peres Center, the Itzhak Rabin Center, the Yad Vashem. I could list on and on all these things. They all empowered me. This immersive process really empowered me to speak about Israel with confidence. And in a way, it created a home place for me away from home. And so I was really touched by all of it. I'm moved. I wish I could put it in better words. But we visited a multitude of institutions where I saw expertise and a willingness to share, where scientists were willing to collaborate with me as an artist and as an innovator as well, and where their innovations and just, it was like mind melding. It was really exciting. I think the best thing for me, or there were so many cool things, but I loved meeting with faculty from K College in Beersheba. We had an opportunity to recognize mutual concern and importance over female college students from diverse backgrounds, more specifically Bedouin and Jewish, and how they were learning kind of in arts and in education. I also met faculty from Tel Hai, and we have been forming both personal and professional friendships. We're working on a project to do what we call virtual exchange and also actual exchange. And we connected in a conference in Lisbon, Portugal, outside of Israel, which was really exciting too, to talk about Israel. And along with all these, there's so many other things, opportunities still ahead. So I can only tell you, this is just the beginning, and it's an exciting part of both my experiences personally in teaching and being able to share about Israel in a way that I never thought I could or would. It matters, and it so matters. And it's really fun. It's fun to advocate. It's exciting to be connected to it. And it's exciting to see where the future will take us. So I have plan on going back this fall, hopefully, if everything opens up, and working with Tel Hai University or Tel Hai College and doing a virtual exchange there.
Dr. Powell, thank you so much. We can now open it up for maybe one or two questions if you'd like to put them in the chat box, if you have any. Let me just say that all of you are such amazing representatives of our programs, and we feel such a tremendous source of pride that you are on the ground and in the trenches as our greatest advocates and allies. You know, both Dr. Shen and Dr. Powell spoke about speakers that they felt really resonated with them. Marvelous, John, were there any speakers in particular that you felt like either awed by or just gave you a different perspective than what you had anticipated?
Yeah, so when we went to the Perez Center, and I believe the previous speaker kind of mentioned it, I was definitely awed, completely in love with kind of just the center in terms of what Israel is doing in terms of innovation. That was like mind-boggling, because our tour guide, whose name I'm currently forgetting, but he really was able to walk us through the role that Israel plays not only across the world, but especially in the United States in ways that I personally never really knew. Just like the kind of just the medical advancements that Israel has kind of contributed to the medical field, and their kind of continuation in continuing to contribute to just different disciplines. And I really was awed by that, and I really appreciated getting to see that and getting to ask more questions while in the center. And I was very grateful for that opportunity.
John, was there something you wanted to add?
I had the same experience as Marvelouse. I did not know that much about Israeli technology. I didn't know like the USB was invented in Israel. Like super really cool things going on. And we all learned at the Shimon Peres Center when we went there. I think that was on our first day in 2020. So it feels so long ago now. And I also really liked, this might not come as a surprise, but I really liked the speaker, Aiton Wilf, the former MK Knesset member. I think she had this very interesting view on Zionism that I didn't really actually think about. And I really liked the way she thought it's almost like a reclamation. And just like this idea of like, we're not going to be small. We're not going to be, in a corner cowering. No, we are going to be here, and we're going to be, we're going to be strong again. I think it's a very appealing message, and it's not something I think I really understood. And I think she gave a greater clarity on like what that means and what it entails.
I'd really like to interject and say one more thing. I apologize, don't mean to dominate or anything, but I think John definitely makes a good point. She, and along with other speakers, really were able to put it in perspective that yes, there most definitely is a conflict going on, but these are people's lives, and they may not necessarily always be thinking about the conflict. Whereas like in the United States, you kind of assume that people are constantly always thinking about the conflict, and that's not the case from my experience, and I'm sure from many other panelists' experiences as well. Like people have lives to lead and children to feed and education to kind of learn, and I think that was really a perspective that not only she shared, but other people from like the Ethiopian community and the Bedouin community also kind of shared.
Wonderful. So we do have one question that I am going to actually ask our faculty participants. And it's a big question, so I'll try and keep it as brief as possible. But the question is that BDS resolutions keep coming back to campus after campus. How can faculty contribute to changing the dialogues about Israel on campus, knowing that there is this bubbling up of anti-Israel sentiments?
I'll start if you don't mind. One of the greatest things that I came to discover that I plan on using in Israel when I go back in the fall is virtual exchange, allowing people into the world of Israel virtually, just like we're here on Zoom. But we're creating this collaboration where students and other faculty can come into our experiences with us. I call it piggybacking virtually, using things like Zoom and FaceTime, where we're doing something there where, like for example, maybe we're walking around Masada if there's cell reception there. We haven't articulated all the places, but let's say we're going to the Shimon Peres Center. We have an opportunity to take our phones and take people with us so they begin to see what we're seeing, and also it creates a place of advocacy where not all the time, not everyone can go. But if you can bring people with you in a virtual format, real time, it really matters. And I actually I run an online program. So I often go on site for research to Guatemala, and I have students who can't come to Guatemala piggyback with the students who can come to Guatemala and really get the same visual sensory for sure. Maybe not the total feel, but they get a sensibility about it. And so I think if we begin to think outside the box of how to promote Israel and how to show people what is happening, what is there. I think that's a good start.
Wonderful.
And yeah, I mean, totally agree. And also, again, like adding to the perspective, right? I think that the key is, having champions on campus, and also, the engagement. Also, especially, having, kind of have most students, most students have kind of a stake in this. Okay, let me explain what that means. I'll give an example of, what happened, I think just 2 years ago here on Duke campus, when, there's this debate going on about, whether the students should be unionized, right? Again, I mean, this is, there's no right or wrong answer. But I think, initially there's a very small group of students and can have very strong opinion, but they dominate the conversation, right? Because the majority of students just don't care enough or don't feel like, speak up until, kind of the school kind of engages students and explain the consequence of, the decision. And, then during the vote, there was just this huge number of students who you never hear their voice, but come up and, it was ended up becoming 800 to 100, right? But if you read the, whatever newspaper or chronicle, that will be, totally the opposite impression. So I think this situation right now with BDS is very similar, right? If majority of students have met, I don't think they have a strong opinion about this. But if there's someone very loud, and kind of if you don't see it as your business, why speak against it, right? It's almost back during tragedy during the Nazi time, right? When people don't speak up until it's too late. So how to reverse this situation, in my mind, there are several. First is, great thanks to programs like the Caravan, right? Having students who kind of went to Israel really resonate with and come back, students like John, who can come back and serve a champion and kind of really speak up, about the issues that they see with their own eyes. And second is also engagement. Kind of what I kind of, doing here is kind of having things like seminars, scientific collaboration, right? One Dr. Sala come and rouse a lot of interest, and suddenly then the students will be thinking, hey, there are a lot of cool things going on, and there's a lot of innovation going on, and that's something we want to, right, be engaged. And for a very small group of, kind of a radical group, that might impair, right, Duke's, I'm using Duke's example, the university's reputation, university's opportunity. Like when I come out, right, that's going to affect me negatively by having that kind of, very negative association. So I think, by engagement and by, having champions on campus, and also with some faculty support, right? I think also, most faculty also don't want to be very political, but again, through the faculty fellowship programming, having faculty also kind of helping with the cause, come as a very neutral way, but kind of really showing the students what is it really about. I think that we can definitely reverse the trend, but it's going to take some time, but really some action now.
Thank you, Dr. Shen. And that is why we have all of you speaking tonight, because it's really a broader partnership with students and faculty who can be each other's best allies. So before we move on to our closing speaker, I do want to recognize Charles Gallo, who has a huge role in helping contribute to faculty fellowship that I did not mention earlier, so I apologize. But before we move on to our closing speaker, I really want to thank our presenters, Dr. Shen, Dr. Powell, Marvelouse, John, President Lizerbram, Nelson France, renereinhard, Miranda Lapidus, and Daniel Friedman for all the hard work going into this event. We are so very appreciative, obviously, of all of you who are on this call. And because it's in my notes to say, if you enjoyed tonight's event, feel free to join us on Monday, April 27th at 2:30 p.m. Eastern Time for How American College Students Are Boosting Employment in the Negev, featuring Mary Lou, a Caravan for Democracy alum from Columbia University, and Tamar Gil-Menachem from the Louder Employment Center. And information on that event is at jnf.org. /on demand. All right, and our closing speaker. Russell F. Robinson has succeeded in making JNF USA one of the top-rated charities in the United States and the leading organization for the land of the people of Israel. He has been ranked on the Jerusalem Post's list of world's 50 most influential Jews and oversees the organization's groundbreaking $1 billion roadmap for the next decade. Robinson has been featured in best-selling management books and regularly appears on TV, radio, and in print media. Our closing speaker for this evening, CEO of JNF USA, Russell Robinson.
Thank you, Logan, and thank you to all of the speakers tonight. I think that as I was listening, Logan, you started off tonight talking about your own history of your grandfather, the connection from generation to generation. These last 46, 48 minutes with, I counted over 122 people at one time on the call. I think the generation today, and then listening to the people on the phone, you could, on the Zoom, you could see that the generation tomorrow is also in good hands. Why is Jewish National Fund doing Caravan for Democracy? Why is Jewish National Fund doing faculty fellowship? It's a fabulous program. But if it was alone on the entire table of a program, I don't think that it would make as much impact as it does make, because it's part of a continuum, part of building that we do at Jewish National Fund, from a program that we call From Birth to the Boardroom, continually connecting people from young to generations that will be the board members, and their pictures will be on the walls in Jewish organizations, non-Jewish organizations at campuses across this country and across the world. And we try to build that connection. And here with Faculty Fellowship and Caravan, it's not only the people that went this year or last year, we're in contact with all the alumni and connecting them. We connect them to all of our college programs. I will tell you that some of our best recruiters for our birthright programs, one of the great programs of all time, are our Caravan and our Faculty Fellowship participants, who go to their Jewish friends and tap them on the shoulder and say, I was in Israel, you should go and see what I saw. It's the Faculty Fellowship that bring our Positive Israel programs onto college campuses. 57 college campuses across the United States. When we bring these programs, our Caravan and our Faculty Fellowship people are trying to help us bring people to hear the message, the complicated but beautiful message of the land and the people of Israel, the shared values, to build the collaboration that you're hearing from the professors, to build the connection that when a Caravan student has graduated and moved to Washington or Los Angeles or to a place of San Diego, that they're still in contact and connection with the Jewish National Fund. That is why this program, I think, is one of the most successful, both of them, anywhere from any organization. But I do the add-on, the special value add-on, that is part of an entire fabric of thought that we have at Jewish National Fund. And the stars were the four, and I can tell you that they're as great as they are. Every time you want to hear a great one, I'll introduce you to another Caravan person. I'll introduce you to another Faculty Fellowship person, and you will see that their experience of that, it's not a political trip. It's a trip talking about Masada and the Arava, and talking about going to the Galil and seeing all the fabric that makes up the land and the people of Israel. So I close with this. This is the anniversary of the ghetto uprising during the Holocaust. Now, I'm not going to talk about death. I'm going to talk about life, because the words were used throughout the presentations about making your voice heard. And at Jewish National Fund, we have a tagline that says, your voice in Israel. Your voice is heard because people during the ghetto uprising went and knocked door to door, went and told people that this is our moment where evil no longer could win, but good had to win. And we had to stand up. And not that you stand up in the violence, but you stand up with your voice. You have to make yourself heard. Evil takes over where good does not fill all the voids. So I thank you, Logan. I thank all of you for your presentation. I thank all of you for joining us today, because your voice gets heard when you stand up and talk. We're all experiencing the same things today. In Israel, throughout the United States, Jew and non-Jew, we're all at home and we're all dealing with the quarantine. But it is our voice of good that makes the world a better place. And so thank you all for what you do, and thank you for your leadership.
Thank you all. Thank you so much for being on this call. Just so you know, there were a lot of other amazing questions, but we had to keep it to a certain time. But I encourage all of you to reach out to JNF for more questions if you want to get involved in Caravan for Democracy or Faculty Fellowship, or have some of our amazing presenters come to speak to your local groups. Those are all great ideas. So thank you, everyone. Stay healthy and stay safe. And hopefully we will see you all either in person or virtually again very soon. Take care.
Thank you, Logan. Thank you, everyone. Be safe.